Oh my goodness, am I really here with the Dr. Eric Roman? Hi, Eric. How are you?
Hey, Victoria. It is so great to be here with you. And my, oh my, we got some exciting stuff to talk about, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Hey, guys, we thought we would take a minute just to bring you behind the scenes. We are vigorously planning for the 20th anniversary productivity workshop in September in Frisco, and Eric is going to take the stage as part of our clinical calibration course for young doctors. Eric, tell us about the course that you're doing here at our program.
Victoria, what we're talking about is how young doctors, and honestly, doctors at any stage of their development, can calibrate their life to their professional career, calibrating your life and your career. Because one of the challenges I've had the joy over my journey. By the way, Victoria, I don't know that a lot of people know, I actually attended the PDA workshop before I started practicing dentistry. Like, I was still in residency at the time. And so my entire life has been productive. Right?
I remember you couldn't even grow a beard back then.
Couldn't even grow it. No, I might have had like 2 little blonde facial hairs. How times have changed, right? And so, it had such a massive impact on me throughout my career in PDA. So what a really cool fitting way to hopefully channel some of that incredible career opportunity to the audience and the attendees. One of the things that I found in coaching and hiring well more than triple digits of associates and teaching clinical directors, we've got a really hard space inside of our profession right now with the plight of the employed dentist, the dental associate. And we have extraordinarily high turnover. We have ridiculously poor data. And what that really means is that our young doctors aren't getting what they wanted out of their career. And the second thing that I discovered is that financial success does not translate into people getting what they want out of their lives. And if we can't connect our financial success and our performance in doing good while we're doing good in our practices to getting what we want out of our incredible lives, my Victoria, like, why are we doing this in the first place? So I'm going to give all the attendees some really tactical strategies to be able to take back and put into their lives ASAP so that they're going to get what they want out of their dental career.
Oh man, I love that so much. Well, thank you so much for being a part of it. In September, this whole program, the first of its kind in the nation, because it's coming from PDA and we've never done this before, but it is a program specific to associate doctors. So if you're an owner and you're contemplating hiring an associate, or you've just hired an associate, your associate is stuck in their productivity at 200, 300, 400 an hour, something like 3,000 a day. We can boost that. We can accelerate that and quickly get your associates up to speed where they're producing like an owner. But more importantly, they've got life balance and they're grounded in their happiness in their career. Dr. David Port talks about that a lot, his research study and his doctorate degree, the value creation for doctors. And it really is about values alignment between the work I love and the life I'm building. And so, Eric, there is no one better in our industry, whether you're young or young at heart, that couldn't benefit from your one life system and making sure that your life path is aligned with your career path. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Victoria. I'm excited to see you and the team in September and can't wait to see who else is going to be joining us there. It's going to be an event that you don't want to miss. So here's your chance. Sign your butt up and get out there. We'll see you in Texas.
Doctor, are you living the dream or just dreaming of living? It is my honor to announce the PDA 20th Anniversary Special Conference this September 12th to the 14th in Frisco, Texas, the nation's leading course on dental practice growth. If you feel isolated as a leader who is frustrated that your schedule is unproductive, maybe your team is disjointed, or your systems are inefficient, this is the conference for you. The PDA 20th Anniversary Conference has all new features, including keynote speaker Emmitt Smith, who is a Pro Football Hall of Fame running back and entrepreneur. You can choose your own educational track to customize your learning experience. Go to www.productivedentist.com and click the pop-up, or select Productive Dentist Academy Conference under the Dental CE and Events tab. That's www.productivedentist.com. Seating is limited. Register today, and we look forward to helping you make your dreams become reality.
Technology is changing this whole space, and you have to be comfortable asking the questions you don't feel comfortable asking.
Welcome to Investment Grade Practices Podcast, where we believe private practice dentists deserve to get the lifestyle today while building an asset for tomorrow. Join your host, Victoria Peterson, to design the practice of your dreams and secure your financial independence. Let's get started.
Today, I am so blessed to meet Stephenie Goddard, the CEO of Glidewell Dental Labs. Stephenie, welcome to Investment Grade Practices. We have been having an amazing conversation. I was compelled to turn on the record button so that you and I could have this conversation with our listeners. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I know I wish you were recording it. I'm like, I hope I can sound as smart now that I'm being recorded.
Give us a background on you and your company and what you do for those of who might be hiding under a rock and don't know who Glidewell is.
There's a lot of them out there still. So Stephenie Goddard. I've been with, actually September, I will have been here for 18 years. I know I don't look old enough to have been that way. No, I'm teasing. Be 18 years in September. So I actually started out here as the VP of Human Resources, and sort of slowly moved my way up the ranks and became CEO 2.5 years ago. And for those people out there who don't know who Glidewell is the largest dental lab, we believe globally. And I had somebody ask me the other day, do you rank that by size, by revenue, by employees? Or so I can give you a little bit of detail on us. We have a little more than 5,000 employees, about 1 million square feet of space, and we do about 120,000 units a week. So if that gives some perspective on size and why we tend to call ourselves the largest.
Dentistry. That's a lot of dentistry.
It's a lot of teeth. And then we had, as you know, we had a group of DSO executives in our offices last week. And I was telling them just 2 weeks ago, we did our 35 millionth Bruxer crown.
Wow.
Yeah. And we didn't launch Bruxer until 2008, 2009. So in that time frame, just 35 million Bruxer crowns alone. Yeah.
So what do you do? Airplane, right?
Exactly.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to hit record was because you also have a very strong financial background. And it sounds to me like you still watch trends and you watch the marketplace. And we got into this great conversation about reports coming out from UBS and Morgan Stanley and, what's happening in dentistry today, 2024. Do you want to share some of that?
Yeah, sure. I was just telling you.
Pin the message on you.
Yeah. Don't blame the messenger, but it's 2024 has been a bumpy year, I think, for everybody. And you talk to people. I'm always curious to talk to people because Glidewell is privately held, and most labs are privately held entities. So getting information on how labs are performing is very different than getting information on how, like, a major manufacturer like a Henry Schein or a Line or one of those other companies who's publicly traded. You can read quarterly reports and get a sense for how the industry is trending. And so, I'm always talking to other lab owners, but like I was telling you earlier, I just got some reports this morning that showed a gloomy outlook for 2024. And I was like, it's not a great report to open up on a Thursday morning. But yeah, I mean, the market has been, from a lab perspective, you can see it in trends and the way that, I can see trends in just in the market in general is when that that there are some constraints on spending, specifically when you see a decrease in implant cases coming in to your lab, and more specifically, a decrease in like a full arch rehabilitation type of like all on four type of case. When you see a decrease in those, and then you see a large increase in dentures, flippers, Essex retainers, those sort of like cheaper or more affordable sort of temporary solutions. And so, like I was telling you, we've seen that trend for the last year and a half, a higher number, like record-setting numbers in things like dentures, flippers, partials, and significant decreases in single unit implants, large implant cases. Even when you look at full mouth restorations like 6 through 8 veneers, those have decreased. And as this report was saying, it's a soft 2024, the beginning of the quarter, and they're predicting a softer second half to the year. And so what does that mean? Specifically, they call out implants being down again for the rest of the year, and aligner therapy also being down. And that really comes down to, most of those things are financed. Most implant cases, I would think, in a doctor's office are financed. And I think a lot of aligner cases probably are too. So as long as financing rates continue to stay at the levels that they are, you'll probably see fewer people financing large cases. And hopefully when the feds decide to start lowering rates, you might see some changes in that. But I think, yeah. And
that for September.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah. And, a lot of people are also sort of hesitant with the elections coming up. I lived in DC for a long time, so I pay a lot of attention to politics. I don't know if a lot of other people do, but.
Well, you know what? As a consultant, I do at Productive Dentist Academy, every election cycle, like major federal election cycles. Which, as I said, this is the year to stop emphasizing the scripting of, if I could wave a magic wand, what type of smile would you have? This is not the year for that. This is the year for, we've been watching this for a long time. It's time. I wouldn't recommend this if it weren't necessary, because consumer confidence wanes when there's uncertainty in the marketplace. And so
exactly,
we've got a double whammy with the elections, with the economy, with the interest rates, inflation on the consumer level. I don't think it's being accurately reported as to how it actually feels, in people's homes. So,
yeah. And I think, just in general, people are just being a little more cautious. The sort of checks aren't coming in, the sort of the support checks that the government was sending out, those stopped a while ago. More and more companies are doing layoffs or pulling back. I know a lot of companies are doing return to work mandates, which are, for people who maybe moved out of state or, can't physically go back into the office, and they're faced with a mandatory return to office. They're faced with, do I quit my job or do I find a new job? And so there's a lot of that turmoil going on in the industry as well. Quarterly reports for many companies are not turning out the way that they had forecasted. So they're reforecasting, which then obviously adds to layoffs or uncertainty, and which leads to people pulling back in their spending.
Yeah. Well, those are the very topics we talk about with our clients who are building investment grade practices. We always say that there's above the line and below the line conversations. And this is very above the line, macro, look out over the horizon. It's not one to be afraid of, but it's one to like put your eyeballs on the windshield and see. And so my encouragement to anybody listening is, if you've got this sense that things are kind of slowing down in your practice, maybe cancellations are up a little bit, or there's a little more open time, or case acceptance has slipped a little bit, because like you said, it's a softening. It's not a dramatic, meteor shutdown like the pandemic was. It's not obvious. But yeah, I was just talking to one of our clients today, and I said, in fact, they graduated. Their practice was perfect. They graduated in December. I said, "You're great. You're good. You've got all that you need." But I'm going to be watching you. So I was watching their dental intel and watching their numbers, and I checked in with them in April. I'm like, "What happened in March?" And they're like, "Yeah, we went to Korea. We took a vacation." I was like, "Yeah." But we had family there. I was like, "Yeah, that's the time of year you do that. That was expected." And then I called him like this week and I said, "Wait a minute, June was off too. What's happening?" And we got on the phone and they said, it's not any one thing. It's just kind of slow. It just sort of slowed down. But when you're armed with data, so there's the macro. So on the macro of the economy, people are being a bit more conservative. They're being a bit more thoughtful. Then there's the micro. Like when you see it in your practice, don't sit back and just hope like, well, I hope that was a bad day. I hope it turns around tomorrow. Because we looked at it and I said, you know what? I think some of the settings on your collection system have been changed. Do you have anybody new in your practice? And they go, yeah, right. At the beginning of the year, we hired somebody new at the front desk and she's doing collections. And I said, well, your over 90 days is through the roof. So we need and check your settings on the software, that helps and supports that. I said, let's look at training. So just because there's a macro trend in the economy, implants are down or this is soft, there's all these little micro economies within your practice that are we reappointing people? Are we offering multiple options on their finance? Can we do something different? Small changes make a big impact in a dental practice. You don't have to shrink when others are shrinking, but you do have to be very conscious and very proactive, about very proactive.
And I think, in this day and age, and even from the data that I saw, like new patients are down for practices in 2024. So new patient volume. And
what's driving the consumer confidence?
I don't know, because I didn't see anything that says what's driving it. Where my head goes to is, to get new, you have to have people moving, and the number of people moving has decreased since the pandemic, right? Because one, people don't want to sell their house. If they've got a really low interest rate, they're not interested in selling. Two, maybe they're not selling their house because they are working remote. So the number of moves, corporate moves that are happening across the US, I would assume have decreased significantly since the pandemic. So you may not be picking up as many new patients because you don't have as many new people coming into your state anymore. Like you had that massive influx when people started leaving California, going to Texas and Florida. But those
some places had massive other places like last one out, turn off the lights. But it does feel like the merry-go-round on shifting and changing and moving has slowed. I love to watch real estate markets, especially here in Hawaii. So much fun.
Oh yeah.
And in fact, when my husband and I were dating, he brought me to Hawaii, and we both love real estate so much that we ended up buying a property together before we were engaged.
Oh wow!
That was 15 years ago, so it didn't work out. We now have it on the market because real estate prices here are still top of market, but just in the last 3 months, I'm seeing that there's a reduction in home sale ask prices. So properties that were above 2 million, I'm seeing like a decrease in 10%, 15%, but they were rock solid, for the last 2 years. Nobody was budging. There were multiple offers. Properties that are in the 500s, I'm seeing like 10,000, 15,000 reductions. So I'm seeing that I feel like there's just a right sizing, like everything went a little crazy with supply chain disruption and hyperinflation and real estate. It just got stupid crazy there for a minute.
So, I would say the same thing in Southern California where, houses a day and you'd have multiple offers. Now you're starting to see them stay on a little bit longer, and then they're doing their price decreases, like dropping the prices. So obviously anything that goes up comes, must come down, right? Isn't that the old saying? So everything tends to stabilize over time. It's just how patient are you? But when you think about patient traffic flow and just in general, how do you get new patients? I talk to a lot of dentists. Like told you earlier, I have that women's program that I have, and it's so hard to compete for space nowadays. It's like, how do you advertise yourself? They're trying things on Instagram and Facebook and all the social media stuff, but it's an interesting space when you think about it for dentistry. Like, do I go to Instagram to go find my dentist, or do I go to Yelp, or like, what, or do I just talk to a friend? How do those networks happen? And it's like social media has become the great sort of moderator in that everyone has access to it. So it's no longer the dentist on the side of on the street corner who makes the most money, who can afford physical advertising and paid postal services, right? So I think it's becoming a struggle with how do you gain the attention of that group of people.
One of our divisions is the Phoenix Dental Agency, and we do a lot of authentic marketing and storytelling, and it has shifted. Even digital advertising, consumers are so savvy now. I think the old stock photography, and we do crowns and bridges and this and that, just having a menu of service, and I call her Permagrin and all of her cousins. Yeah,
exactly.
People, I think social media plays a big part of that, but it also is like people are looking for what is genuine, what is real, what is teachable, what is accessible. And so, yeah, we probably doubled in clientele because they're looking for a way to tell authentic, true stories. Now, I've never had a dentist come to me and say, I'd really like to tell my authentic, true story. That's marketing speak. What they say is, I'd really like to connect with my patients. I'd really like to connect with patients. I'm like, are you willing to really you? Because we want you to be you, because that's your competitive advantage right there. And it's interesting to. This is such a great conversation, Steph. We were introduced as two female CEOs, and you should know each other. And now we're talking about the complexities of social, economic, and cultural change through the lens of a dental lab and a consulting firm, right?
Who would have thought, right?
I think it's fascinating. I do. We just have a few more minutes. I want to touch on your Guiding Leaders program. And you rightly pointed out that more than 50% of graduates today are female. Dentistry's always been female-centric, led by a small core of mostly white men. And I'm going to say that I'm in the baby boomer generation. I've been in the industry since 1979. And we certainly have more color and complexity today than ever. And love it, and it's shifting, and it's making way for new opportunities. And I just congratulations and thank you for creating this program to empower women to move up in leadership ranks. Can you tell us about your Guiding Leaders program?
Yeah, I would love to. It is my baby. So I always love to talk about it a little bit. But yeah, I started it in 2019, and as I was telling you earlier, I didn't come from the dental space. I came from consulting and finance, and where I had a lot of women and a lot of women of color who were leaders that I got to work with. And then I came into dental, and I just ended up being the only one in the room that looks like me. And, so I had a lot of meetings, and I love men just like the next person. I don't have anything against them, but I also feel like, we all have to pay it forward in society some way. And I saw something that screamed to me, and I thought, well, how can I pay it forward, and how can Glidewell pay it forward in particular? So, when I was, it was typically myself in board meetings or meetings with other manufacturers. And like I was telling you, when I went to dental conventions, mostly women in the audience, mostly men on the speaker speaking at the podiums. And so when I was trying to find some speakers for Glidewell, I was being given the same men, and they're lovely and they're brilliant. But I wanted something new and different. And so when I started looking for women who could speak for me, there just weren't very many. And so I created this leadership program. It's 7 months long. They come out to Glidewell. Every month is a different curriculum, open mindset, negotiations, finance, presentation skills, practice management. It's 2 days a month. And then they get a mentor from a previous cohort, and then they get an executive coach 3 months in. And the intent is really to create this strong network of women who are there to support one another, because like I was telling you earlier, just because one person is successful doesn't mean the other 1,000 of you can't be. So how do we, rally and support one another? Because your success is not my failure. It's your success. So let's celebrate that. And then we can celebrate everybody's. Have to get comfortable with that. And so, we've been able to find some amazing speakers for Glidewell. In fact, last year we started it, and this year will be our second year. We have an entire 2-day symposium where all of the speakers are only women, and they're all graduates of guiding leaders from across the different cohorts, and they get to come up and speak on clinical topics. So they get to pick their clinical topic that they want to speak on, and some are on main stage, and then some do hands-on courses the next day. But it's a really great way to give them for most of them, their first platform, and for all of them, hopefully not their last. So it's been a real joy and journey watching it.
That's amazing. And not just for women, but for the next generation of doctors.
Yeah.
Navigating a totally digital world, it's much different than when I started. You'll laugh. We still had belt-driven hand pieces.
Yeah. Well, technology is changing this whole space, and you have to be comfortable asking the questions you don't feel comfortable asking. So, ask them in a safe space, and then maybe you get more comfortable asking them in a less safe space. And but you have to be able to drive your business and drive your future.
Well, speaking of technology, I want to say thank you to Glidewell. You're one of our prominent technology partners in September at our 20th anniversary productivity workshop, where we've had a clinical calibration program that we've taught for many, many years. And now we're expanding that and launching the Clinical Calibration Institute. And so thank you, Glidewell, for coming. I believe you're bringing your fast mill technology hands-on. Yep. And that is, like, as a conference planner, that is such a special thing. That is a dream. That is a big ask to have that. But we have Yomi robots. We have Ripe Global mannequins and simulated training for doctors. We have Align technology and iTeros and lasers. And it's our first big sort of tech symposium where people can put their hands on digital workflows and what it's going to feel like. And it's primarily geared towards associate doctors.
I think that's amazing. When I heard about it, I was blown away, because I think that's what's missing. Like, people, like adults, are learn by doing, right? It's very rare that you learn by reading, right? But we're mostly doers. And I just, when the team was telling me what you were doing and how we were participating, I was so excited. So we're just honored to be included in it. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It would not happen without support from strong companies like yours. So thank you. Oh my gosh. So I appreciate your willingness to be on Investment Grade Practice Podcast today. Someone with a Price Waterhouse financial background, a powerhouse CEO. You're also HR certified and just a warm human being. I appreciate the spontaneous conversation about the economy, about what doctors can do, about what you see, from the lab point of view. I think there's huge insights. And I love these spontaneous conversations. Sometimes you can plan a podcast and it's a little stiff in its agenda.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Well, thanks for having me, Victoria. It was really fun, and I'm really glad the team connected us. It's just such a random meeting, I guess,
Oh, David Port, this one's for you and Sandy. They said we would fall in love and they were correct. Hey, if people want to get a hold of you or get more information about Glidewell, where could they reach out?
So the best way to find me is on LinkedIn. So Stephenie Goddard on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email at stephenie.goddard@glidewell.com. Just remember there's no A's in my name. So it's Stephenie with all E's.
Stephenie without an I-E, Stephenie
Yeah.
without. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, we'll certainly get your contact information in the show notes. And I appreciate this really wonderfully deep, spontaneous conversation.
Thanks, Victoria. It was fun.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Investment Grade Practices Podcast. If you find value in this episode, help us spread the word by passing it along to a dental friend, subscribe, and give us a like on iTunes or Spotify. Learn more about building your investment grade practice at productivedentist.com today.